Okay, guys, chapter 20 of Amal Unbound. Some of us are trying to work. You might want to try it, Nabila said to me later that week as I made my way down the stairs carrying Nazarene Baji's empty breakfast tray. Nabila was dusting the chandelier with a long brush and shot me one of her hateful glances as I passed. I could have stated the obvious. I was working, wasn't I? But what was the point? It looked like I had an enemy, whether I liked it or not. I rinsed out the teacups and glanced out the window. A breeze swept through the trees. A handful of servants rested on charpets. Maybe I could get a chance today to step outside for a little while and feel the fresh air against my face. Fatima poked her head into the kitchen. Nazreen Baji wants to see you right away. I dried my hands against a towel and I hurried up the stairs. Nazreen Baji was about to shower when I left. What could have happened? When I stepped inside, Najim Baji stared at her armoire. She wore a teal blue robe. Her lips were pressed against it, together in a thin line. Amal, what did you do? She pulled out a silk shalwar kameez from the armoire. I gasped. The kameez was charged straight through the center. I had ironed it along with 3 other outfits yesterday. I took care to use the gentlest setting. It took nearly an hour to press out all the wrinkles. Burning this is bad enough, she said. But to hide it from me? As if I wouldn't noticed? Burn it? But Nazreen Baji. I shouldn't have assumed you knew how to handle expensive fabrics like these. You're to not touch my things again until Mumtaz goes over all the settings with you. Understood? But I knew how to iron. Just because we were not as rich as she was didn't mean I hadn't handled nice things. But I saw her expression. She had already made up her mind. She would not believe me. I'm sorry, I mumbled before leaving the room. When I walked into the kitchen, Nabila was there. Too bad about the ironing, she said. What? I did. My voice trailed off. I'd be careful, she said, brushing past me. Nazreen Baji does not tolerate mistakes very well. I stared at her retreating figure. Nabila did this, but what could I do? It was my word against hers. Why would Nazreen Baji believe me when she barely knew me? I rushed outside to the servants' veranda and inhaled a deep breath to steady myself. Whether in the sugarcane fields or by the leafy stream bordering my family's land, being outside had always calmed me. But it was different here. Looking out at the perfectly trimmed lawn only made me miss the dirt backyard of my parents' home. And no matter how beautiful the fragrant gardens were, they were surrounded, as I was, by 10-foot thick brick walls. I was outside, but the walls reminded me that I was not free. Malik's daughter, aren't you? I recognized the man addressing me as Gulham, the driver who had brought me here. He was with Bilal, Jawad Sahib's gangly servant. They sat on a low-seated woven stools, a brass hookah between them. I worked for your grandfather when I was a child, Ghulam said. Chopped the sugar cane and helped harvest the wheat. Recognized your house as soon as I pulled up. Her family owns land? Bilal asked. He cocked his head and scrutinized me. I'd say a good 24 acres at least, the older man nodded. Ah, so even the mighty can fall down too. Bilal laughed. How easy it was for Bilal to laugh. His laugh was a pinprick, not sharp enough to cut, but deep enough to sting. I had Nabila to set me in my place. I didn't need more. I turned to walk back into the house. Oh, come on, I didn't mean to upset you, Bilal said. We're not so bad, I promise. You don't have to make fun of me. I'm just trying my best to fit in. Looking like you'll shrivel into dust at a few words isn't fitting in. It's only going to make things worse for you, Bilal said. We heard what happened today. What are you going to do? Nothing. I folded my arms. I'm not going to sink to her level. That isn't fitting in, Bilal replied. That's letting people take advantage of you. Talk back and hold your own, or you will lose it forever. I don't need it forever, I said. And back home? Except you're not back home, you're here, the older man interrupted. His voice was neither harsh nor mocking. Instead, it was filled with pity. Pay attention. Learn. You decide how you will be treated. I walked back into the main house. They were right. My father would come and take me home any day now. But until then, I had to play by the rules of this house. And that meant I had to stand up for myself.